I'm going to tell you about my experience with breast cancer. Up until 4 years ago, I knew nothing about breast cancer other than what most of you probably know: pink cancer, Susan G. Komen awareness, marches, walks, trying to have patients aware of the issue. This particular case involved a mom who lost her life, not because she was unaware, but because her doctors were unaware and didn't properly treat her. As a result, 3 little girls lost their mom. Her husband lost a loving wife, and this is a tragedy that ensued. The only good part of the story is we were able to take care of the family. It resulted in a record $12.35 million settlement for the family. The reason I'm telling you this is so that everyone knows what they need to do to protect themselves. Let me tell you a little bit about the case. Let's call my client M. I can't share the specific names in the case because of confidentiality. But what I can tell you is this young mother loved her family. She knew she had a family history of breast cancer, and she did the right thing. She went to her doctor when she felt lumps in her breast and armpit. Her sister had breast cancer, so M was very aware and trusted her doctors to stay on top of her health and let her know if she ever got sick. Her concerns about her health were ignored for over 2 years. In this case, the health system and specialists misread ultrasounds and mammograms. They failed to order timely biopsies that would have saved her life, and failed to communicate with each other, which is mind-boggling in this day and age. This resulted in late-stage breast cancer when it was finally diagnosed in 2014. She died 2 years later, in 2016, at the age of 37. I can't tell you how much grief the family has experienced. The defendants in this case, a hospital in the Chicago area and several doctors, were negligent in several ways. The first, the most basic, they were penny wise and pound foolish, taking a wait-and-see approach instead of spending the money on certain tests. When you have a lump in your breast, the only way to rule out cancer is to obtain a needle biopsy. Ultrasounds and mammograms can tell you the chances, the likelihoods, but they cannot rule out breast cancer. The irony in this case is that the expense they saved on performing the biopsy was that it resulted in a $12.35 million cost to the doctors in the hospital. Needle biopsies are the gold standard to confirm breast cancer, which is a well-studied disease and very, very treatable if caught early. In the word of one of the doctors in this case, waiting is not a good idea. You need to biopsy to get a definitive tissue sample. Doctors know how to treat it, and survival rates are uniquely high, but early detection is the absolute key. The financial incentives the doctors have, or the pressures they face to see as many patients as possible, is very real. More patients mean more money, but they also mean more demand on a doctor's time. In our case, a high-risk breast cancer patient had only 5 minutes with a doctor to discuss cancer risks and detection, which simply is not enough time. So how does that happen? Doctor fatigue, corporate greed? It's a combination of the above. Clearly, something needs to change. Now, separate from those issues, this case exposed serious communication failures between the doctors. This was created in part by an increasingly competitive and volume-driven healthcare market in the Chicago area. We've all seen the commercials. We've all heard the pitches that are made. Our team saw the doctors did not talk to one another at all about their shared patient, nor did they listen to the patient or review their own notes. Our client's tragedy could have easily been avoided if the OB/GYN, the radiologists, and the surgeon worked as a team, picked up the phone, and discussed our client's obvious red flags. We discovered that the day before our client's medical records were turned over to our legal team, a doctor altered their own notes in the file to protect themselves. As soon as the doctor realized that he was under legal pressure, he carefully reviewed the case and saw that he missed the opportunity to help this patient, and he tried to cover his tracks. With financial pressures and poor communication working against a patient's best interest, the other tragic shortfall is that patients do not have access to the metrics, to the numbers, to the information regarding the quality, success, or volume of their doctor's work. Until meaningful changes are made, patients need to be aware and advocate for themselves so they don't fall through the cracks, relying on their own instincts, asking questions, and insisting on answers. It just may save their life. This case exposed some extremely serious shortfalls in our healthcare system that need to be addressed systemically, but also should be on the minds of all consumers so they can best navigate their own medical care and not put blind faith in their doctors. Our client's case was a preventable tragedy. but we hope this family's loss prevents another from happening in the future. Specifically, I want to remind you, if you have a loved one who has lumps in their breast or under their armpit, they need a needle biopsy to rule out the chance of cancer. I want to tell you that Em's loss was completely preventable. And on behalf of her 3 little girls and her husband, we want to make sure that this doesn't happen to any other mothers, daughters, or sisters. To learn more about medical malpractice cases, visit our webpage, rblaw.net.